In every era of the NBA, we have various archetypes at each position that teams covet. Each one will have various skills that pertain to their specific era, like how in the current day, shooting and positional size are notable ones that teams look for. The one fun thing about sports is how some players have skill sets that translate to various eras, and in some cases, could be even better fits for those that follow them. Now that we're deep in the offseason, this is something I thought would be fun to highlight. We always talk about how deep the talent pool in today's NBA is, but what about those who came before them, and would their games or skill sets have fit well in the present day? This will be the first part of a series where I'm going to highlight some of the players whose games would translate. This will allow us to celebrate the game, provide some nostalgia, and let younger fans get some insight into players they might not be familiar with. In today's NBA, teams are always looking for versatile wings who can do it all offensively, whether it's scoring from all levels or creating for teammates. For the better part of the 2000s, not many players did this quite like Tracy McGrady, listed at 6'8 with a lanky frame, impressive ball handling for his size, and the ability to score from all over the floor. Various NBA players grew up emulating him. Kevin Durant, a few years ago in an interview with Jamal Crawford, said, T-Mac was the guy that stood out because I felt like we had a similar body type. We had the similar move with the hezzy pull-up. He started it, I feel like, and I just tried to take it from him. I tried to watch his games as much as I could, check his movements, and to try to emulate everything I see. Paul George on the Knuckleheads podcast with Quentin Richardson and Darius Miles 5 years ago, when discussing who he watched closely and modeled his game after, said, Kobe was my number one, but I felt like I related to T-Mac the most because I was a tall, lanky kid. I was playing the point all through my years growing up, and I was always like a foot taller than every kid growing up, so I felt like I related to T-Mac the most. To add to this, younger viewers might not believe it, but the Kobe vs. T-Mac debate in the early 2000s was a very serious debate, but for good reason. In his ages 21 through 24 seasons with the Magic, McGrady averaged 28 points a game to go along with 7 rebounds, 5 assists a night, and a true shooting percentage of 53.7, which was above league average at the time despite the high volume. Though Tracy had a few different elements that would have translated very well in this era. While McGrady scored in the mid-range, for someone in the early to mid-2000s, he shot a decent amount of threes, taking nearly 5 a game from 2001 through 2007. Though like we see from many stars today, a lot of the threes he made were unassisted and off the dribble. He also got to the free throw line at a very high rate, and on many occasions was asked to create for teammates, where he was an underrated passer. From ages 21 through 28 playing for the Magic and Rockets, McGrady was named to 7 All-Star teams and 7 All-NBA teams, though in the 2009 season, injuries started to take their toll, and he played in his last NBA game in 2013. McGrady ended up making the Basketball Hall of Fame, and while he doesn't have the team accolades of some of his peers, his legacy will carry on, as he was the prototype for the type of offensive wing so many teams covet in stars today, and would have thrived in this era given his skill set and the additional space he'd have to work with. Every NBA team covets versatile defenders, with the size, length, and movement to defend various positions. Andrei Kirilenko, for all the reasons listed, would have been an extremely valuable player in the current NBA. Listed at 6'9", the man known as AK-47 primarily played small forward, but his blend of defensive traits allowed him to defend various positions. Surprisingly, he was only named to 3 all-defensive teams in his career, but Kirilenko had the timing, long arms, and anticipation that altered plenty of shots and passing lanes. Given those skills, it's also notable that when Kirilenko retired, he was the only other player aside from Hakeem Olajuwon with at least 2 career 5x5 games, which is a game when a player records at least 5 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 steals, and 5 blocks in a contest, though that club has since been joined by Victor Wembanyama. Despite being a 6'9 player who primarily was a small forward, he hit the ground running as a shot blocker once he came to the NBA. Originally drafted in 1999, Kirilenko initially played a few years overseas. However, through his first 5 NBA seasons spanning from 2002 through 2006, Andrei was 3rd in the NBA in total blocks and averaged over 2.5 per game in that span. He also led the league in blocks per game in 2005, where he swatted away 3.3 shots per contest. Kirilenko also could make a difference on the offensive end, as in his time with the Jazz, he averaged over 12 points a game and could do it efficiently, as he had 3 seasons where he was top 20 in the league in true shooting percentage. Though Andre wasn't a great 3-point shooter, he was dangerous in transition, was a threat to score playing off the ball, and was able to create for himself a bit when putting the ball on the floor. On top of that, he was also pretty effective as a secondary playmaker creating for teammates. Add it all together, and Kirilenko had a well-rounded skill set that could fit with pretty much any team in the current NBA. In the modern NBA, there will be no shortage of teams coveting a sharpshooter who is 6'6" and can score in a variety of ways. That's what the Bucks landed in the second round of the 2000 draft in Michael Redd. He played in just 6 games as a rookie, but in the next 2 seasons became a very efficient scorer off the bench, and in the 2003 season averaged 15 points a game while ranking second in the NBA in effective field goal percentage, and was the runner-up for the 6th Man of the Year award. The following season in 2004 was the most notable of Redd's career. It was his first as a full-time starter, and he responded by averaging just under 22 points on very good efficiency for the era, and was named to both the All-Star and All-NBA teams. In his ages 23 through 29 seasons, Redd averaged 22 points a game and maintained the efficiency despite the high volume, which was highlighted in the 2007 season, where he scored just under 27 points a game, which was good for 5th in the league that year. Here's a good example of how the game has changed. Across that 7-year period I mentioned, Redd attempted just under 5 3-pointers a game, which for the era was a pretty decent amount. For context, this past NBA season, 78 players who played enough games to qualify for the per-game leaderboard took at least 5 threes per game. Redd shot 38% from 3 in his career, so if he played today, he's probably taking 9 to 10 threes a game, and is shooting them out of every action you can think of. Unfortunately, Redd's career took a turn in 2010 as he tore the ACL and MCL in his left knee for the second time in less than a year. Though we were robbed of seeing the rest of Redd's prime due to injuries, he was able to come back from that second tear and play in the NBA, which is a major accomplishment in itself. To go with that, he'll always be remembered for being a member of the Redeem team that won gold at the 2008 Olympics, and is one of the premier scorers and shooters of his era who had an offensive skill set that would thrive in the current game. With that, that wraps up the first group of players I'll be looking at for this series. While a few of these players had their careers altered by injuries, collectively, they highlighted skills teams look for today. You had a mix of size, versatility, length, outside shooting, facilitating, and many more. If you had any suggestions for players you'd think would be good fits for this series, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'm looking forward to you joining when I take another trip down memory lane to see what players had skill sets that were ahead of their time. If you made it this far, thank you, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date with my latest in-depth NBA analysis.